Jewish Education in Media is pleased to present L'Chaim, a program that highlights the people, issues, and events of importance to the Jewish community. Now here is your host, Rabbi Mark Golub.
I'm Mark Golub, and I'm sure many of you are fans of the Israeli Film Festival, which throughout America showcases the outstanding feature films and documentaries made by Israeli filmmakers. And many of these films receive international acclaim, including nominations by our own film industry, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences, which presents the Oscar Awards each year. Back in 1977, the Israeli feature film I Love You, Rosa, directed by Moshe Mizrahi, was nominated for Best Foreign Language Film. And in the past few years, a number of wonderful Israeli documentary films have been honored with Oscar nominations, including 2 in 2012, Gatekeepers and 5 Broken Cameras. And in 2015, the Israeli short, Aya, was nominated for an Oscar. Actually, since 1964, 10 Israeli films have been nominated for an Oscar, placing Israel among the 10 leading foreign nations to be so honored by the Academy. Well, on this edition of L'Chaim, I have the pleasure of introducing you to an individual who's intimately involved with the film industry in Israel, Dorit Inbar, of the new Fund for Cinema and Television of Israel, which supports and promotes the Israeli cinema, especially in the category of documentary films. Dorit, it is wonderful having you join us. Thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you. How long are you in the United States?
This time, less than 2 weeks.
2 weeks. When you come, what's your focus?
When I come, I have actually a few goals. One is to let Americans know that there is a very successful industry in Israel. Not only an industry, also a great art, and not only a great art, but also a very good ambassador of Israel.
The film industry itself.
The film industry, the films, the films deal with a variety of topics, and all in all, together, they create a very good and profound picture of what is happening in Israel. So if you're watching these films, it's a great way to get to know Israel and Israelis and the Israeli society. And apart from that, I'm looking for friends and supporters for this organization, which always need support.
Are you a nonprofit?
Yes, we are an NGO, partially budgeted by the Israeli government and partially by a very strong group of friends. Should I call them family?
Absolutely.
It's a dangerous word,
Sure.
There are lots of jokes about that. Yeah, but great friends of this organization, which is small but with a lot of impact.
I want to talk to you in a moment about your experience as you go through American Jewish life. But first, I want to know a little bit about you. Where were you born?
I was born in Israel.
Where?
In a very small place in the south, and I was raised in a small town in the desert called Arad.
So you are a Sabra.
Oh yes, I am. My mother is a Holocaust survivor, and my father was born in Israel. She's from Warsaw.
And her name?
Her name is Hannah.
Hannah.
Mm-hmm.
And your father?
Hannah Borowski. That's her name. And my father was born in Israel to Warsaw immigrants coming before the Second World War. And I'm the eldest of 3 daughters. And I myself I'm having 3.5 kids.
3.5?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, what's it mean, 3.5?
Well, it means I have 3 biological kids. And I have a younger child who's a foster child from a Russian origin, by the way. The most fantastic child on earth. And he's raised He was raised in my house from the age of 4 to 9, and now he's back to his father, but he's partially with me. Still calls me a mother, so he's my child.
That is so lovely of you,
Yeah.
Dorit.
Yeah.
How do your biological children relate to your foster child?
First, it was a family decision.
What's the age gap?
The age gap. My oldest daughter is 25, and then I have 23, and then I have 17, and this child now is 13. He's the youngest, 2 girls and now 2 boys. And we all took this decision together, but I admit that none of us understood what we were going to, and what we were going to face. And it was a challenging event at the beginning, but we all fought together, and they really serve as his bigger siblings.
Okay.
Yeah?
By the way, I did not know this part of your story, and it takes me a slightly different direction, but I do want to talk about it for one moment.
Yeah.
What prompts you to want to take in a foster child?
What can I tell you? I felt that I have enough room in my heart and enough room in my house and enough money to raise a 4th child. And, but I can't even start telling you how much, I can tell you frankly, I saved this child's life. I cannot even start telling you how much he gave to me and to my family and to the children, not only as a lesson, but also a real, he just changed our lives, really. He changed our lives, and this, I think, is one of the most important things a person can make. It's certainly the most important thing I've done.
What is his name?
Michael.
How did he save your life or change your life?
I will give you only one short story. Funny, we're talking, we're detouring here from the mission of this meeting, but I will tell you just one thing. My father passed away almost 20 years ago, and I had big issues with my father, very complicated relations. And as it happens, we Jewish people, we are fighting and quarreling. 20 years after he died, I was still quarreling with him in my heart. And then came this child, and one day, at a specific event, I was shouting at him at something. I was very angry at him because he's really, I don't know how to say that, shovav. If he can mess with something, he will. It's a karma. It's not his fault. He's really so sweet. And I was angry at him at something, and all of a sudden, while being angry at him, I looked at him and I saw my father. And it took me a second to understand. It wasn't that, slowly I changed opinion. No, I just figured that my father was such a lonely child as this one. And it was, everything was forgiven in a second. It just gave me my father as a present. It sounds silly and sticky and kitsch and everything. I don't think I told it ever. So this is just a small thing, but this is just one of a long line of things, because he's really a generous personality. So
What was the hardest part?
With him? One day, I remember him waiting for his mother to come, and she didn't show up. She used to visit at the beginning. She was quite violent towards this child. So I was afraid when she came and when she didn't. So she promised to come, and he sat all evening and waited for her, staring through the window to the gate. And at nighttime, he went to sleep, and in the middle of the night, he woke up, and he could hardly breathe. He got like an asthma attack, and he was choking and crying and high fever. And I thought it was such a terrible moment. Another moment when he peed on the carpet, and he said to me, I want to go to my mother. I'm living with my mother. His mother didn't have a house at the time at all. I want to go to my beautiful room in my beautiful house with my mother. Let me go. And he did just everything to convince me to let me go. And I said to him, Michael, this is your house. This is your room, this is your bed. You're not going anywhere. I knew he has nowhere to go. And I just, I took the carpet and threw it to the garbage. And I said, the carpet. And I remember that when he came to us, he used to eat his fingernails, all the 20 of them, legs and hands. Never saw such a thing. Caused lots of infections. And the first time we cut his nails, it was a celebration. We were standing with all family around him and, and giving him a hand. And, it was such an exciting moment that, he had nails to cut. He stopped doing that. So, lots of stories. I can feel the whole 24 hours of the next day.
I got it.
Yeah.
You did save his life.
Yeah, I had, it was my luck. Yeah.
It's sweet of you to say. Do your children love him?
Yeah, first, yes. Each one differently. 3 different people. Yeah, but I can tell you, the youngest son suffered mostly because, there were 2 boys and very close to each other. And when this Michael arrived with just nothing, but they sent him with 2 plastic bags with used clothes. He had just nothing. And he comes to this house, and this child just have, is having everything. So he started, taking revenge. And yet, when they went to school, my son was protecting him and saying, you don't touch my youngest brother, yeah, they're responsible for him. And they know they should be responsible for him, even if I'm not here.
Mm-hmm. Do you think he loves them?
One day, when he was 6 years old, and his father already showed up and started meeting with him, we went to school together. It was 1st grade. I remember the exact place in the neighborhood. We were walking hand in hand to school. And he said to me, it was Sunday, and he came back from his father and said to me, I counted, and I found out I have 7 siblings. I said, well, how come? He said, Reu, Tal, and Itai, these are my children. And there is a daughter of my mama, and I found out that my father has this and that, and all together I have 7. And I admit, I'm usually quite a cynical person. I turned to him, I don't know what happened to me. I turned to him very, dramatically, and I said to him, you see, Michael, you see that you're not alone. You see that you have brothers and sisters, and you have so much. And he raised his face to me, and he said to me, very embarrassed, he said to me, but I'm always alone. And I burst in laughing. I laughed so much, I almost cried from laughing, because this is the real truth. This is the emet of life, He's alone. He's so much alone that he loves, he loves me very much. But he's alone. He's a loner. In his soul, he's an orphan. Mm. Yeah, although he has so many mothers and fathers. Yeah.
When you and your children, by the way, you haven't mentioned the husband.
Yeah, my ex-husband, we divorced a few years ago, 7 years ago, and it was, I think, 3-4 years after Michael came to our life. So it was quite a shock to everybody. And my partner now has also very good relations with him. Even speaks a bit Russian with him.
He's from the Russian Jewish community?
No, he's a Gentile. He came with 2 parents. I think the father's father is Jewish. So according to I don't know, how do you call this law? They were allowed to come to Israel. And his mother wasn't Jewish, so the child is not Jewish. There was a time when the 2 parents disappeared, and I thought I will fully adopt him, and then I thought of maybe proposing that he will
convert.
Yeah, but the father came back. He refused. I didn't want, I didn't care. When I was asked if I care, if it matters to me if the child I'm taking is Jew or not, I said I just don't care. A kid is a kid. And I must tell you frankly that at the beginning, after he came to our home, it was hard for me. It was hard, and I felt awful about it. I felt so guilty about it. You know, a boy, you can't ignore it.
It was hard that he wasn't Jewish?
Yes.
Because?
Because we are such strange animals, people. You know, we
Jews?
are. No.
Your family?
People in general, you know, we stick to what we know. And this child wasn't circumcised. So he was 4 years old. I had to help him with the shower. And it was for me so hard at the beginning. It's a silly thing to say, you know, I was so ashamed of it. I remember I kept saying to myself all the time, what would you like a Jewish child to be treated in a Christian family? Again and again and again, I was asking myself that, you know, it was so, it was hard for me. And I remember one time he came to me and he said, I have a problem. I said, Gigi, go to father, you know, I couldn't look at it. I didn't know what to do with it. It's silly, you know. Then it went away. Now I recall it as it's funny, it's comic. But at the time, it was at the beginning, I was surprised because when I was asked, I said, I don't care. A kid is a kid. So.
He's aware that you have a real Jewish identity and your children do too, yes?
Of course. And he loves it, by the way. But, you know, Israel is Israel. Now it was Pesach.
Yes.
He came for the Seder. I mean, yeah. He knows everything. He even knows his haftarah for the bar mitzvah he doesn't have because he studied it in school, you know, it's funny. So, but, you know, living in Israel, that's exactly what happens.
Now, explain to us, is he still living with you?
No, he lives with his father. He comes to me every other week for the weekend. And, you know.
And he calls you?
And he calls me mommy.
Ima. Yeah. He feels attached to you and your family?
Yes, absolutely. You know, he knows we are the family. Mm-hmm. And it's very strong strings. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Again, when you and your children have the discussion, you're married at the time.
Yes,
we were. So your whole family is discussing it. Was there anyone who was saying, either your husband or any of your children, don't do it?
No. And you know, we had these discussions. We went for a trip for half a year to the Far East with 3 children. My youngest child was 5 years old at the time. And for half a year, we were eating, you know, breakfast, lunch, and dinner together. It sounds like nightmare, but it turned out really nice. And it was a great experience. And during all this tour, we were discussing this issue, and we just were sure we want to do it. So again, we didn't know how complicated it is, but it wasn't, you know, looking backwards, I think it's the best thing a person can do for himself and for his family.
It is the highest form of tzedakah to help. What you did was extraordinary. And kol hakavod to you and your husband at the time and your children. And
everybody participated.
It's a very inspiring story. By the way, if anybody's watching right now, what's your advice? Would you encourage people to take in foster children?
Just absolutely yes. Absolutely yes. People, you don't know what you're missing if you're not doing that. It's such a great thing that you're doing for yourself. It's the most, how do you say, egoist act you could do. It's the best thing you could give for yourself to do it. It's much better than giving here and there and support. I mean, I don't diminish anything else that you're doing, but this is the strongest thing on earth that one can do. Help another, you know, help a child and give him a chance, because this child could easily go to be hospitalized in a mental hospitality, and second, never get anywhere. And this child certainly is going to go to university. He's great in math and physics and chemistry. He's such an intelligent boy, and he's a very, very strong personality. You know, he could be a mass killer, and he could be a physician. He could be just everything, and he will be a good thing.
One last question: did your children have to pay a price as children, and their relationship to their mother, because you brought in a foster child?
I don't think so. I mean, you should ask them that. I don't think
You
so. I
know,
think
you would know.
they were old enough to contain the situation. Even my youngest son, but we protected the youngest son very much, you know, in order to. I remember times when my child would shout at him, "Go back to Russia where you came from," you know, like, which was legit. And no, they're very good friends, and you know, there is age difference. And when this child arrived at the age of 4, he used to take. He didn't take anything, no money, no jewel. He didn't collect anything from anywhere. The only things he would take would be keys and batteries. Like if he have understood the power in these objects. So, you know, every time and then I would hear my child, you know, my oldest daughter shouts, "Michael, where are my keys?" You know, but these are small things. No, I don't think nothing was taken from them, on the contrary.
Well, kol hakavod to you, and it's a wonderful story. And again,
Thank you.
neither of us expected to talk about it.
No.
But I am so glad you did. So, I want to talk to you now about the work you do. By the way, you are by training a lawyer.
I am.
So, how does a lawyer end up involved in the film industry?
I think at the age of 36, 38, I have got the 50-year breakdown. You know, like I just couldn't stand it anymore, and I needed a change. I was looking for a change, and actually I was looking very nearby. I wanted to specialize in a specific field, and I've decided to specialize in communications.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any client in that field, which is rare. Usually lawyers they practice on their clients, you know. But this time I thought it could be very interesting to study something else, and I started learning and meeting people and asking questions, in spite of the other things I was doing. And one day, when I really had thoughts of leaving this profession in general, I got a phone call from a person who presented himself as the assistant of Fuad Ben Eliezer. That time he served as the Minister of Communications. And they were looking for somebody to chair the Council for Cable TV and Satellite TV. Practically, this long title means the regulator for the multi-channel commercial television in Israel. And he wanted to meet with me. He wanted Fuad Ben Eliezer to meet with me. I said only if I have time. You know, luck was knocking on my nose, and I just didn't realize that, you know, my prayers were answered. And I also didn't believe, you know, I went to meet with Fuad Ben Eliezer. I never knew this man before, and I thought, you know, he's a general talking with men only, so he wouldn't say anything, and if he says, I say no. Took 20 minutes in the Knesset in Jerusalem for him to propose this job to me, and I opened my mouth to say no, and I said, but I can't do it before the end of the year. And this was my first lesson as to politicians, because he said to me, I can't wait that long, you start next week. And this is how it all started. And at the beginning I had to study alone, a lot, because, you know, just didn't know anything. It was a very interesting period, because at the time there were only cable TV, very low level, analog, you know, it was really very bad service. Most of the country, or the periphery, is not connected.
Yes. What year are we talking about here? What year are we talking about here?
It was the beginning of 2000.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it was the mid-December 1999 when he said to me,
Yes.
you start next week.
So really, as recently as 2000, in some way, Israeli television is in the dark ages.
Absolutely, it is. It is, and most of the country cannot see. Those who are subscribers for the cable television would get a take it or leave it one, you know, bunch of channels that most of them are stolen from the air. You know, with no subtitling, German, Turk, just whatever. and few local, very low level and low investment budget-wise. When I entered, January 2000. Mid-February, I made my first decision, and I enforced the cable companies to invest in local production. It was a big scandal. They said there are not enough features, not enough synopsis, not enough filmmakers, and that I am a stupid lawyer. With these two I agreed, but I was sure I am right, And this is how it all started. And then I brought the Yes company, the satellite company, to launch. It was July 2000. And then it all started.
We should explain to our viewers, in Israel there are now two major television providers.
Right.
One is terrestrial, that's hot. One is satellite, that's Yes.
Right.
They would be similar to, Cablevision Optimum as a terrestrial and DirecTV as a satellite.
Exactly.
And they are separate entities, but at the same time, and they're both commercial.
The book's commercial. They can compete content-wise only on local content. Therefore, they invest a lot in local content. This is one of the reasons for the flourishing of this industry. Besides, they really improved the infrastructures, and this whole lots of production houses and lots of activity and investment. So it's a whole new industry, if I may say so, that rise from this.
Okay, and you were there at the genesis. It must have been a lot of fun, yes?
Well, if you call so many people hating you, yeah, it could be fun.
By the way, isn't that just...
No, it was fun. It was absolutely fun.
No, and I don't... There's a style to Israel. And when you say, it's fine as long as if you can live with a world where everybody hates you. And to some extent, that is Israel. But when you say it, it's not really hating you.
No, it's not.
Which is what our audience has to understand. It is just the balagan of Israel and the fact that everything is moving so quickly. I sometimes have the feeling that Israel is ahead in some way and is furiously running to catch up in others. In the television world, the world of television in Israel now is night and day from where it was when you took over in 2000.
No, I must tell you that first there are of course lots of emotion, and since this field is heavily regulated, and the decision of a regulator, every word can weigh in millions of dollars.
Yes.
Then there are a lot of emotions, but certainly. Lots of talents, and the competition did a very good job, for the audience. And what happened was the outcome of it that they developed very, very quickly. Both the infrastructure, the connection for the periphery, the whole country was all of a sudden connected, and the service grew and widened and embittered.
Okay,
so
how thrilling.
So it was good.
Okay, so you make
4 years.
Okay, you make a major contribution in the world of Israeli television, but now you're in film.
And
where's the transition?
Between the current stage and this period I told you about, there were a few more jobs that I've done. Each one made me come closer and closer to the production of film and television in Israel, and I admit that it started during those 4 years because I invested a lot of effort and a lot of regulation in enforcing these two giants to invest money in the production. So there was just everything: documentary and fiction and children and series and just everything. And I gained a lot of knowledge and experience. And therefore, I think it was 2008, when I knew that this fund is looking for, or this is an NGO, so it has a board of directors is looking for a new general director, I applied. And I remember when I applied, later on I learned to know that there were 17 filmmakers and me. And they reduced it then to 7. There were 6 filmmakers
And you.
and me. I still didn't know that, but when they interviewed me, they said to me, "What do you know about films anyway?" And I said, "Well, I know about films, but before I tell you what I know about film, I should tell you something. If you wish to stay alive and flourish, you should find somebody, you should appoint somebody who is not a filmmaker. It doesn't necessarily have to be me. I didn't know I was the only one. But you should do that." And they said, "Why?" I said, "Because of various reasons," which I told them. But I said the major reason is that whenever time is getting hard and complicated, and this is your situation in this fund at the moment, people tend to go to their, how do you call it, comfort zone? Comfort zone.
Comfort zone.
Yeah, what would be a comfort zone for a filmmaker? Sitting with other filmmakers, reviewing rough cuts, giving comments, while what you need is somebody that, when times are hard, will go and get money. And I can tell you that I will measure myself only by raising funds. I will measure my success only by how much I brought to the table, because I know I can create good films and take care that good films are made. But I need to bring more money. And one thing more I should tell you, I told them, I never raised money in my life. So I don't know. And if you have somebody better than me in that field, you better take him. So this was a chutzpah, but
Yes.
Now more than ever I know that I was right.
And they chose you.
They chose me.
Mm-hmm.
They chose me, and took me time, a long time, to learn how to raise funds. I'm still not very good in that, but at least I do whatever I can, and at least I'm sure that everyone who's supporting this fund is doing a very important thing.
Wonderful story. So I want to ask you some questions about Israeli film.
Do that.
You heard in the open I talked about gatekeepers.
And Walsis Bashir also.
Yes.
Yeah.
The films seem to be made by filmmakers who are critical of Israel, or critical of aspects of Israeli policy, or are critical of Israeli treatment of Palestinians or of Arab Israelis. And first of all, I want to know to what extent this criticism is representative of filmmakers, in your opinion, in Israel in general. And I want you to talk to why you think it is. Certainly in America, the films that are critical of Israel are given very special attention by aspects of the American Jewish community. But I was just curious to hear how you would respond. And I haven't asked you yet, by the way, where do you place yourself on the spectrum in Israel? You lean left, you lean right, you're center, where are you?
I'm center.
Okay. So from that perspective, when you see the films that are being made by Israeli filmmakers today, especially documentaries, to what extent do you notice what I'm saying, and do you have any insight about it?
Yeah. Well, first you should know that for a fact, the percentage of films dealing with the conflict, with the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, are quite few. Much lower rate than we would expect from such an important issue. Yet, they're always causing debate and sometimes fear and anger, so they draw a lot of attention. But when you see the variety of films, 2012, when we supported 5 Broken Cameras, we supported at the same year 65 films, among which we supported the film which is called the Ponivesh Yeshiva. Amazing film about this Ivy League yeshiva. A film about 40 years, a series of 40 years for the Yom Kippurim War. A series about the city Lod, I Did Not Betray, about Uri Ilan, who was captured by the Syrians and murdered there. and many others, you know, films about aging, about children, about women, about this and about that, and only 3 or 4 films were somehow, sometimes indirectly, relevant to this, to the theme of the conflict. Yet this film, by the way, cinematically, it's a great film, went to the Oscars and won the Emmy and won so many other awards and drew so much attention. So first you need to know the proportions and the overall picture. Second, documentary filmmakers all around the world are a specific type of people. Usually they are loners, you know, lonely wolves, dissidents, stubborn, opinionate, criticizing. So sometimes you see such films. Many times, by the way, the films are not criticizing anything. They are just depicting a situation, discovering a group in the society, showing a history, historical events, Holocaust stories. There is no criticism. Sometimes they are very much criticizing, and you know, and one thing I should tell you, and it relates to freedom of speech. So there are 2 countries around the world, only 2, which do not have a constitution. One of them is Israel. The other one, by the way, do you know what it is? Oh, this is really fun. It's England. So you see, we relate to a very prestigious country. We don't have a constitution yet. Freedom of speech is a very, very basic and important rule in Israeli society, Israeli law. And freedom of speech is always challenged in the extreme places. You know, it's very easy to talk about freedom of speech when you talk about, I don't know, children material or classical music. This is easy. But when it comes to 5 broken cameras, and it's very annoying, then you find that Israel is a real democracy with a very strong and stable tradition to protect freedom of speech. And this is what films are all about, also to allow people to talk about extreme issues. So I protect it and I defend that. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I don't like what is the outcome. Mm-hmm. I should tell you, when you support a fiction film, you know the story in advance. You know every scene. It will be shoot. You know they practice the actors, and you know what you get, more or less. When it comes to documentaries, documentaries come to me and says I want to follow hilltop boys from Gilad settlement. And he does that for 5 years. And you cannot tell what will be the outcome. By the way, the outcome is now launching its premiere at the Dok Aviv Film Festival in Israel in 2 weeks. And it's going to be the next controversial issue, the next controversial film. And the funny thing about it is that both settlers and left-wing people are very satisfied from the outcome. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. I look forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
Are the films that I've mentioned, Gatekeepers, 5 Broken Cameras, are they as popular in Israel as they became in the United States?
First, yes. Second, these 2 films that you've mentioned, and also Wassis Bashir, which also at the time was considered by right-wing people. I heard claims that why washing the dirt outside the door, and why this and why that, and this is one of the films that maybe the most important film ever made in Israel, and one that did great things for Israel. And yet, many people feared it and criticized it. And sometimes people will not, the regular audience will not go and see it. By the way, one of the fascinating things in this industry in Israel that today, when you go to theaters, at any time you will see at least 3-4 Israeli fiction films showing, and people just buy tickets and go to see it. It never. 15 years ago, there was no such thing. just no such thing. And today it's a common thing. And also some of the documentaries. Just imagine, documentaries are so successful that they become blockbusters. They go to theatrical. For example, just the last, if to mention The Green Prince, for example, The Flat, and so on. So these films, they go theatrical, but it's a specific audience. You know, it would be cinematheques audiences to watch them. It wouldn't be the common audience.
I understand.
Yeah.
You know, in general, the artist tends to be liberal-minded and trying to do something that pushes the envelope. So no one should be surprised that there are Israeli filmmakers, and you remind us, there's a spectrum of Israeli filmmakers and of Israeli films, both feature film and documentaries. But it should come as no surprise to anyone that there are within the Israeli filmmaking community filmmakers who are going to use their art to try to express what concerns them about life and try to sensitize the rest of Israeli society, if not the world, to whatever problems, excesses, deficiencies are in the world. And one of the most complicated issues confronting the world, only one of them, is the Israeli-Palestinian relationship or lack of relationship. And so it's interesting to see how Israeli filmmakers grapple with it. I know that when I see a film that seems to be, and I'm going to use a specific American word, pandering. Do you know the word pandering? Pandering means I know what you want. I'm going to make a film that pleases you. It has, I don't care whether it's true or not true. You're going to like it, and I'm going to make money by pandering to your view and your interests. I am always worried about that element of art in general. America, Israel, anywhere. There's always a danger. I mean, there's a notion, the artist is pure. Not every artist is pure, and an artist has to eat and feed his family if he has one as well. So sometimes the artist makes decisions based on the dollar more than the idealistic truth. And sometimes I'll see a movie that comes out of Israel. From the little I know little. American Jews know nothing. But the little I know, it doesn't feel right, it doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem honest. And sometimes I think I'm watching something that a filmmaker has been able to put on that screen that makes me understand more of not only Israel, but more about myself. That to me is a great filmmaker. So, you know, I've been upset when I've gone to certain films that have come out of Israel of late.
First, you should ask me. I will recommend you the good films. So
what are the good films? Dorit, tell our audience.
The NFCT's film, great.
But you understand what I'm saying.
Yeah, of course. But, you know, first, you know, they say in Hebrew, emet nikeret, truth notes, you know, and you tell yourself, you can tell when you see a film if it's the right thing or it's a, so you can't lie.
I just worry that those who know very little about Israel can be persuaded, quite honestly, to be anti-Israel by some of the films that come out of Israel.
First, very little of them show Israel in a bad way. I must tell you that. Because I saw them.
Dorit, don't fool yourself.
No, I know.
There are theaters in New York to which very liberal-minded, socially active Jews on the west side of New York, they flock to that theater. And those theaters show a certain kind of Israeli film. Many of the films you mentioned, we never see.
But are they convinced beforehand, or they are convinced because of the films they see?
Yes, they come with a bias, which is affirmed by the film they see.
But yeah, you know, it goes both ways. There are such people in both sides of the political map. Sadly enough, I would like people to come open-minded. And I can tell you that if you want to change somebody's opinion, the best way to do it is a film, because film makes you involved in an emotional way, and this opens not only the heart but also the mind, and you may accept other people's opinions and other point of views and so on. But when you're looking for it, when somebody is looking for it, you will certainly find it. And I agree there are such films. I don't like the idea, but still there are. Most of the films I can tell you that are coming from Israel, most of them would sometimes show a very complicated situation, a very complicated reality, but not one that will cause you hate Israel.
Okay. By the way, are you familiar with the film? I believe it's called Get.
Get.
And it's the story.
An amazing film.
It's an amazing film.
Yeah,
okay. It's a film that shows the journey, a woman who wants a divorce in Israel, this extraordinary year after year journey because her husband won't give her the get. She's at a bet din, a Jewish court, and the Jewish court basically puts it off and puts it off and puts it off and puts it off. And in the end, she does get the get, but it's years and years and years. Now,
this is reality. Let's assume.
How real is this? By the way, I'm looking at the way the bet din is being portrayed in this Israeli film. My reaction as a Jew, as a rabbi, as somebody who understands the harsh dilemma of which I am critical, of the get system and the aguna, the woman who cannot get a get from her husband, and how unfair the entire system is. At the same time, I'm watching this film and I'm saying to myself, the way this filmmaker has chosen to portray the bet din is a caricature of Jewish and Israeli life. It is not an authentic representation of a honest bet din in Israel. Am I wrong?
First, I'm not the person to give you any opinion as to the rabbinite justice system.
Am I wrong? Is it a caricature, or do you believe there is the bet din in Israel acts the way this movie portrays the bet din?
I know that there are agunot for years and decades.
I know that
and
too.
everybody know that.
Absolutely.
So how come? Are they flying from the sky to us?
No.
Okay. So I want to tell you something about Get, okay? Get first is a fiction film. You should know that. Although most of the fiction films in Israel are half documentaries, you know? Yeah. Now, I believe that the audience is smart. I believe that people are intelligent and critical, and they can see films and they can decide for themselves what is true and what is not. And I can tell you that even documentaries, let's take Five Broken Cameras, which drew so much attention and debate. You know, every film, especially documentary, the main problem of it is the editing. Because these days, you know, in the past times, it was very hard to take shootings. You would think of every frame before you would make it. These days, you take your iPhone and you accumulate lots of materials. Then you have to edit. Every editing decision is a political decision. What would you show? Now, I remember there was a scandal there because of one scene in the film where they show a demonstration, and demonstration take place, and people told me, you see, their shirts are not the same color. These are different demonstrations accumulated together, and it's a lie. It shows like if they are so nice to the soldiers and the soldiers shooting at them. But this is not the same demonstration at all. Is it correct? Is it fair? What is the truth? This is a question that is always being asked, and it's very hard to tell when will the editing decision be legitimate and when would it be a twist of the truth.
Yes. Poetic license. Sometimes poetic license really obscures the truth. Incidentally, I'm on the other side. I am infuriated when in a piece that is trying to persuade, the editing is the editing cheats. You can't. I don't believe you can. I don't believe a documentary filmmaker has the right to cheat
I agree.
by using cuts that show what isn't there. And so for me, if I had noticed
No, it's annoying.
it's-
I agree with you.
it's infuriating.
This is annoying. This is annoying. It should be clear what you're showing. Within the limits of editing, of the fact that you are having hundreds of hours recorded and you need to make a 90-minute film, it should be clear. Sometimes,
by the way, in America, every now and then we will see a picture in the New York Times that is associated with some kind of eruption on the West Bank or some kind of protest or some kind of Israeli action. And then we find out, it happened all the time during the Gaza war this past summer. And then you find out that the picture the Times used didn't come from
there.
Didn't come from Gaza, didn't come from that war, was a file picture there. That is not fair.
Absolutely.
That is criminal.
It's a lie.
It's criminal.
I agree.
And so I don't want it in films either. And I have enormous regard for documentary filmmakers who don't permit themselves that kind of deception.
And we do not permit that either, as much as we can. And this is the way we work at the NFCT is this: we don't give money to the filmmaker to go away and to make his own or her own film. We accompany them, supervise them. We give the money in milestones, and we see the rough cuts, and we see the outcome, and we see that it is. It stands within our ethical limits and both relevant and provocative and pushing the envelope. Everything is blessed, but also truth and allowing the other side to give a response.
Yes.
And because we think it's better for the film and the filmmaker.
Basically, and you said this already, the power of film is that it can project the face of a country, of a people, of a society. Sometimes it's only a piece, and sometimes it's a large panorama. But the power of film, the power of television as well, it's just unparalleled. It remains the strongest tool for getting across some information and for education in the world. And the internet is wonderful, but what the internet is a provider of film and video that educates and informs.
I can tell you that when you have a good film, it will make a difference, both in Israel and outside of Israel. And I can give you even small examples. For example, we are making every year films about Holocaust survivors and Holocaust issues. These are so important films, and once somebody sees such a film, he will know much more than many lectures that he will listen to. Or we are making films about disabilities, for example. When children see films with about disabilities, you could see it always the same. You know, the first reaction is being disgust, clearly disgust. They just want to escape. And at the end of each such film, they just want to hug the protagonist of the film and the filmmaker and to get to know him better. So it's really exciting when you see the impact of that. Or if you make a good film about an artist. You know, there is an artist in Israel, she's considered the national poet. Although, you know, Bialik is the national poet, but I suspect nobody reads Bialik these days, and her name is Leah Goldberg. I think all Americans don't know her at all. They don't know the name. Leah Goldberg is a phenomenon. Her poetry is sung, and her children's books, there is not even one child, including my Russian Mikhail, who was raised based on these books. Everybody knows her. Yet they teach in school, and nobody really knows. You see 50 minutes film beautiful film with animation and songs, and you just know everything. You will remember her forever. So this is the way films can make impact, not by asking people to create films which will represent Israel. This is the wrong way to go, I think. these days, you know, when there are open skies, open web, anyone can get anything and flock to these places where there are, you know, anti-Israeli films, and you can do nothing about it. The right way to do it, to fight it, is to create such excellent quality films that people will come to see and will show them the good sides and the abilities that there are in Israel.
And that's what you're doing every day. This has been fabulous. You know,
Thank you.
sometimes you look forward to meeting someone, you don't know them well.
Yeah.
And then you sit at this table. I love you. You're amazing.
Thank you.
Kol tuva hatzlacha in all you do. And
Thank
I
you
hope there are
so
many
much.
other opportunities for us to be together and for you to sit
I
here.
do hope so too.
And
Because I have a lot to say. You know,
well,
I have so many stories.
You are
as you
welcome.
Can see.
You'll come back. You'll come back as often as possible.
Okay.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you so
Dorit.
much.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Thank you.
So-
Dorit Inbar, General Manager of the new Fund for Cinema and Television of Israel.
Thank you.
An extraordinary woman. As always, I'd love any reactions you have to the ideas expressed on this edition of L'chaim. Please email me, write me, post on our Facebook wall. I'm loving Facebook these days. Or tweet me. I look forward to hearing from many of you. Until the next time, I'm Mark Golub. L'chaim, my friends, to life.
L'chaim is a presentation of Jewish education in media.
We would be pleased to send a complimentary DVD of this program to anyone who wishes to support JBS, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, with a tax-deductible gift of $36, double chai or more, to the nonprofit organization Jewish Education in Media. Simply visit the JBS homepage and click on the Donate button to make a donation by PayPal or your credit card. And please indicate the program for which you would like a DVD. Or you can send your tax-deductible check made out to Jem, Post Office Box 180, Riverdale Station, Bronx, New York 10471. And again, please remember to indicate which program you would like to receive with our compliments. And we thank you for your kind support.